Hello and welcome to the Villa Views post-match pint in association with Purity Ale. Tom Julian, Dan Bardell, and Dan, it's fair to say if we'd been able to start this podcast, this show 15 minutes earlier, then we'd be in a lot better place. But Villa won, Everton won. It feels like defeat, but a draw from the jaws of victory. What a frustrating end to that game.
Yeah, we're not quite dead, but obviously it's a massive blow. It leaves us needing a lot of things to go our way and needing us to win the last two games, which doesn't feel very Villa-like at all. I'm not going to knock them tonight because I thought we were good. I thought it was a good away performance. We did everything right. Even Conser did everything right to try and salvage the ball off the line at the end of the game, but it's come off his foot funny and ended up going in, which is just story of our season, really, isn't it? And Everton have got nothing to play for, but we've thrown away points from a winning position, and Everton take a point home at 0-0. I felt fine, to be honest. I thought we were in control of the game. I felt like we were going to score, and we did. Obviously, we were talking about it in the WhatsApp group at the time. I felt like the goal was coming. I think I was seeing the game a little bit differently to you. But then as soon as we went to 1-0, my heart rate went to pieces. Absolute mess. It's horrible when it feels worse when you're winning for some reason, even though that's what you need to do. And we haven't got it over the line, and I'm gutted because I really thought we deserved to win the game today, and I honestly thought we were going to. So, yeah, a bit heartbroken, to be honest.
Yeah, you and I saw it slightly differently. I mean, you know that I'm a big fan of writing notes as the game's going on, and I wrote about two things, I think, for the first half, and neither of them were positive. And I think it got to... They weren't negative per se, but it just felt like a nothing game at halftime. I didn't feel particularly worried, like you say, because you look at Everton's forward line and it doesn't really fill you with fear. But at the same time, you know, I think it got to about 65 minutes and neither team had a shot on target. It just felt like a game that wasn't really going anywhere. I didn't feel worried, but Jamie Carragher talking about how we were controlling the midfield and stuff. I didn't really feel like that. I thought they had the better of the possession, if you like. Neither had great chances. I felt like Grealish's free kicks were poor. Luiz's kind of incision passes just weren't hitting their mark. And then literally, as I'm texting you saying both teams are a bit poor, Haraham whips in a delightful ball and Conser gets on the end of it, and it's 1-0. And then, like you say, you really feel worried because Villa just can't hold on to a lead.
Yeah, and we've missed a massive chance. I don't know what El Ghazi's doing there. I don't want to hammer him because I imagine he's going to be getting absolute pelters on social media tonight, which I don't wish on anyone. But he has got to score, and he'll know himself. He's got to score. That's the turning point of the game. If that goes in, it's probably game over, isn't it? Calvert-Lewin's missed a good chance after that as well. But it's just a nothing goal, isn't it? It's a decent ball in, but it's a hopeful header from Walcott, I would say. And Conser has positioned himself perfectly. I think he's done everything right there, but the connection is poor, and it's ended up in the back of the net. And it's just, yeah, I'm devastated, to be honest. I don't know. I honestly thought we were going to win that game. Before the game, I was reasonably confident, and throughout the game, I just felt like we'd hold on and we'd do it and we'd give ourselves a massive shot of staying up. But now it's going to be very, very difficult. But with my positive hat on, I do feel like Arsenal can be got at the next two games. That they are winnable games, and I do think we can go and win both games now. But we've done well today, and we haven't taken the points. But we've done well a number of times this season and not taken the points. So I suppose it's nothing new.
Yeah, thank you to all the guys and girls that are putting in the comments. I can see them coming up. If you're watching with us on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you get your questions in, your comments in. As ever, we'll get a couple of guests on tonight to talk through all the big moments. Curtis Leonard says, why do we sit back after scoring? We invited pressure and got punished, as always. Dan, I think the stats...
I don't agree with that.
Well, we've conceded 17 goals in the last 15 minutes of games.
I don't agree that we sat back today.
Do you not?
We had a perfect chance to go 2-0 up.
Yeah.
And with El Ghazi.
And we didn't. It felt like after that chance, again, we let teams come on to us. I agree with that comment. I think it always happens, and maybe it's maybe it's systematic of going up and then wanting to hold on to a lead. I've always felt like England do that as well. But yeah, to me, it did feel like we were sitting back. And again, once we conceded that goal, we started to push on again.
I'm not sure about that. You're obviously, when you go 1-0 up in such a big game that you need to win, you're obviously going to go a little bit more defensively, which I would say, yes, we did. And I'd expect most teams in our position to behave exactly the same way. But to say we sat back, I don't think we did at all. We didn't park the bus. We've had a golden opportunity to go 2-0 up. So how did we sit back?
We didn't park the bus because we can't park the bus. We've missed the spot that you're supposed to park the bus in.
No.
I mean, the only way I can agree with you here is the fact that we didn't sit back because we sat back for quite a lot of the game. It felt like I really don't see how we were in control as much, and just because they couldn't take their chances either, I didn't feel like that meant that we were the dominant force there.
I thought we completely controlled the midfield. I thought Louise, McGinn and Connor had that game under control completely. If we had anything up top, I think we'd have won that game.
It was another very quiet game for Ali Samatta. Keenan Davis offered a little bit more, but not much more, I would say. And I agree with you. We can't hold the ball up top. I don't know. Going into a game and getting 65 minutes or so without a shot on target just feels a bit demoralising. I'm in a really weird place. I don't really know what to think. I feel like it's too soon to call this game.
It's definitely too soon. I need some time to reflect. Coming straight on here is bad news for me. I'm bound to say something I regret.
Well,
I feel very upset.
Let's get somebody else on to say something that they might regret. Our first guest on tonight is Aaron. Aaron will join us in 1 second, I imagine. Here he is, Aaron. If you can split the difference, what did you make of tonight's performance?
Yeah, cheers, boys. Thanks for having me on. I'm a bit, kind of on the fence. I think we definitely controlled that midfield tonight, and I was pleased to see a little bit more cohesive work going on in the middle. I think Connor was fantastic tonight. Louis, again, quality. He's becoming a better and better player every time we play. And it was nice to see McGinn making those McGinn-esque things that he normally does before lockdown and before he got injured. He was doing a lot of that tonight. He was getting that ball back from pretty impossible positions, and he was really, really working hard in the middle. I am disappointed that we looked like we sat back and we kind of lost the confidence after we'd scored. If anything, when we score, we should be building confidence and rising above it and going on to do more. But for some reason, we score and it's almost like, right, job done. Oh, holy shit! Now what do we do? And I think that's what happened tonight. And I didn't. I wasn't surprised by that at all in any sense of the matter. I thought Konza was class. I'm not gonna throw any criticism at Konza tonight. I thought he was great. Elmo had a great game. Ming's better, a little bit more sturdy in the middle. He makes some rash decisions at time. I think tonight he eliminated those rash decisions. And like all season, boys, we've struggled up top. And Samatta didn't have the game that he wanted to have, I'm sure. I think Keenan came on and made a difference. I think he was, he was a bit of a presence up there. And I'd like to have seen him start tonight. I was disappointed that he didn't start because I think, with the likes of Holgate and Keane in the middle for Everton, I think Keenan would have been a big force in between those two tonight. And I think the young lad that came on for Everton did very well. I was very impressed with him. Good young player. But I think Keenan caused them trouble. So I'd like to have seen another 20, 30, 40 minutes of Keenan causing them trouble. But that didn't happen. Anwar, I'm not his biggest fan, and I'll be the first to say that. And he's done that on numerous occasions this year, missed glorious opportunities when a player of his quality should really be putting them away. I could have elbowed that. If handball wasn't a thing, I could have nosed it in. I could have bearded it in, better than he kind of took that. It was a clear heading opportunity. Why didn't he just put his body on the line and smash through his head and in the back of the net? I don't know why. And that's Anwar all over. And I think he'll be, like Dan says quite rightly, he'll be the one that's left the changing rooms tonight feeling quite demoralised by what's happened tonight, because I think he thinks, that should have been a 2-0 up. But we have to keep the faith, and every game that we play, I try and find these positives to, yes, tonight is our night. We can do this. But it's just not our season, is it? You know, that's the be all and end all. It's just not our season. So, you know, let's go into Arsenal with the same ethos, the same attitude again, and see what we can do. They're not unbeatable for sure. I think Arsenal are a beatable team, and if we can take a little bit of tonight and a little bit against Palace and amalgamate the two into one and take that to Arsenal, I don't see any reason why we can't get a point, if not 3 against them. So, but it's crucial now. We're at the end of that tether, aren't we? You know, we need to be winning games. Draws aren't enough.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really annoying about tonight, obviously there's a lot of things annoying in the end, but if it's just a couple more resolute displays like tonight away from home throughout the season, we wouldn't need to be going and winning these last 2 games because we'd have picked more points up through the season, and we've finally got it a little bit right defensively now. We're struggling at the other end as a different problem now, but it's just so annoying, isn't it? Because if we'd have just put in a couple more displays like that away from home, we'd have more points and we'd probably be sitting a little bit more safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you, mate. But you know, every game we say that, don't we? And then it happens again, and it's kind of like a repetitive cycle, and nothing truly deep down is changing. Yes, different players are performing differently on different games. Look at Trez last weekend. Now look at him tonight. You know, different player. You wouldn't believe the difference in confidence and the willingness to go and win stuff, regardless of the quality that he doesn't possess. He still, last time round, went out there and gave his all. Tonight, I didn't see that. So, you know, we can say these things need to change, but they're not fundamentally changing. And I think something has to change. I don't know what that is, but those fundamental things really aren't changing. It's just who we're going to get tonight. Douglas is the player that I think has kept that consistency across the board. And for me, Konza. Both of them been very good since we returned from lockdown. But, you know, we're an 11-man team. We're not a young potential defender and a young Brazilian midfielder that's unlikely to be here again next year. So, you know, what do we do?
Yeah, I mean, that's the £150 million question, isn't it? We look at the team and look at the spend that came in at the start of the season, and you're scratching your head a little bit for where that money's been spent. And a lot of the comments in the that are coming through now are Davis isn't good enough, Samata isn't good enough. Maybe nobody's talking about Borja Baston right now. Maybe he's the saviour that none of us realise. He's not even there. He's gone.
No.
I mean, so we've literally got 2 choices. Vasilev, if you want, but Aaron, who's your choice to start up front against Arsenal?
For me, it's Davis because of his prowess, because of his strength. You know, he's a man after my own heart. He's a big, burly lad. You know, he can look after himself up top, and I think that's what we need. Samata is a decent player, but he's relatively unknown, and he's not had that settling in time. He's not had that kind of pre-season, getting to know the league, getting to know how it plays, getting to know how it works. Whereas Davis has. He's been around with us for quite some years now. And I think Davis has to lead the line. It's quite simple, really, though, Tommy. We don't have the quality up top, regardless of who we're going to be selecting, who we're going to be picking, who we've got as an option. We don't have any quality up top. And that has been our biggest issue this year. And we haven't got the quality on the flanks either to provide whatever quality we are existing up top. And that's been our biggest issue. Defensively, midfield, we've managed, I think, at the best of parts. But up top, we've really struggled. You know, Wesley was coming of age a little bit. He was doing quite well just before he went off and got injured. And like, January was the time, and I've had this chat with Dan several times behind the scenes. You know, January was that time to go and get that player that we needed. You know, I was suggesting players like Billy Sharp, like Murray at the time, because I know that they could have got goals for us. And there's been so many games since January that we could have put those goals away had we had the players behind the ball that we were suggesting in January. Didn't matter whether they were 33, 34. Didn't matter whether they were coming to the end of their career. That's what we needed. And we didn't go and get it. And now we're really suffering for that. You know, we haven't got any player that you can rely on really up top to put any balls in the back of a net.
Yeah, I think Davis is simply the best option.
Correct.
At the moment. I mean, to be fair, he worked kind of well as an impact sub today, but for me, he's just going to disrupt defences more than Samatta is. It doesn't feel like either of them are going to score, but I feel like Davis is going to do more physically and do more from the team. So I think you're right there. I completely agree with that. I think Davis sees out that the last 2 games, and you just hope maybe he can get his head on the end of something and put the ball in the back of the net. But covered a lot there, mate. Thanks for coming on and talking to us. It's been good to speak to you.
No, thanks very much for having me, boys. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
See you later, man.
You are watching the post-match pint in association with Purity Ale, and don't forget, if you need to replenish your ale stocks after watching that tonight, then make sure you use the hashtag, well, the code hashtag VillaView for 10% off at Purity Ale online. Supports us, supports them as we support Aston Villa. And now, Dan, there's only 2 games left: Arsenal and West Ham. Obviously, West Ham, Watford playing on Friday night as well. But Bournemouth still above us. We can have a quick look at the table, I think, now. And ahead of us on goal difference, then both of us, Bournemouth and Villa, behind Watford and West Ham. There's still 3 points in that. What is the best result that comes out of that Watford-West Ham game, do you think?
I really don't know. I still don't feel like it matters massively. I think you want one of them to win. Watford's fixtures aren't great, but obviously we've got to play West Ham, which could mean it's in our own hands going into the final day if we do manage to beat them. But I just don't know. I was just so hopeful that we'd gone from 7 points to 1 point being the gap, and 3 points is the gap now, which is obviously better than it was. But the games are just running out now, and 2 wins are imperative. I still think if we win both games, we'll probably stay up, I would say. If you were to win both of those games, you'd stay up. But it's a big ask to win 2 in a row. I mean, how many times have we won games in a row this season? It can't have been many, if any.
No, I can't think of a time off the top of my head. Pete Powell says we need West Ham to win. Simran Sangera would rather West Ham win. So West Ham win generally. PSK says West Ham v Watford will 100% be a draw. Christoph Pavlou, staying confident. We're still in it. Cheer up, lads. We are still in it. You know, we've got the potential of 6 points left. I'm just so lost after tonight because, 84 minutes we're coming on here and we're celebrating a couple of wins. We're celebrating our first away win in the new year. It's and now we're not, and now we're back to where we were, and Bournemouth will be buoyed by that because they obviously dropped points last night despite playing all right. It's just a really frustrating one.
I can't see it on my screen, but Mike Pearson said something that's an absolute certainty to be a positive. So if you can see it, so
I've just lost it. They're flying through too quickly.
Yeah. Popular the live thing after the game, isn't it? Straight after the game, but everyone wants to get their say across.
Yeah,
I feel so annoyed.
Pearson. We are going to do it.
Must be great to live with Mike. You'd never be downbeat if you lived with Mike, would you?
Relentless.
You'd never be upset. Or his positivity would annoy you, and you'd want a divorce.
Yeah, you'd have to be the yin to his yang, wouldn't you?
Yeah. His missus must be very negative. Very negative.
Casting aspersions all over the shop. Before you get in trouble, let's bring our next guest on. We've got Richard Fairley coming on any second now, and I just want anybody else to bring a more positive opinion than Mike Pearson. Richard, are you that man?
No.
Oh
no. I'm kind of negative from how the game went, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'd say it was nice, kind of, because it looked like we were doing like a bit of a 4-4-2 at times with McGinn and Samatta kind of up top. And I feel like McGinn's kind of our only real goal threat, in my opinion. Yeah. But not many positives from me, really. I'm kind of Mr. Debbie Downer.
No.
Because I don't know if we can get anything against Arsenal. But yeah, that's me being a Debbie Downer.
I mean, it's hard not to be down after you're going into the last 5 or so minutes plus stoppage time ahead. I always felt tonight that if we're going to get a goal, it's probably going to be from a set piece. And there were some deliveries that weren't great. But the one thing you've got when Connor is on the pitch, at some point he'll always put an absolute peach in. from a free kick, and he did that tonight. Were you encouraged by the midfield? Because I actually thought McGinn, Louise, and Connor handled the game really, really well. Looked after the ball, pushed us forward. But again, the problem is there's nothing in front of them, other than Jack, of course.
I honestly agree with you, but I'm Louise's since the break. I'm Louise's biggest damn fanboy. Yeah. I think Louise is excellent. Just he looks so calm on the ball, so composed. But it's like you said, just there's nothing really apart from Jack, no one to give the ball to. And I was kind of Trez is a weird one. I don't want to come on here and like batter anyone down. But last game, fair play to the guy for getting 2 goals in. But he just looks a bit clumsy, really.
That was my fear when I saw he was starting, because obviously he had to start, but it feels like he goes good game, bad game, good game. Yeah. Well, maybe good game, bad game, good game, middle game. You know, they're never, and it's an issue that the whole Villa team, with the exception of Douglas Luiz, I guess, since the restart has had, that we haven't had that consistency.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and it's sad, but who knows? It might be enough to stay up. If we get lucky and, it's like Dan said, set pieces, rely on those. And Jack was unlucky, man. Like, I remember, I think, second half, he kind of got in that position where he got in the United game, where he scored a worldie. And I was like, oh, he's going to do it again. And he didn't. But we've just got to wait it out, I guess, see what happens in the next few games. And I'll try and not be a Debbie Downer and stay positive.
I think with Jack, I feel like, you remember at the start of the season, people were having a little bit of a pop at him because he wasn't getting goals and assists, and I thought he was trying too hard at the start of the season. The effort is 100% now, and I feel like he's at that point where he's not playing off the cuff, where he's just trying that little bit too hard and he's thinking too much about what he's doing. When Jack plays off the cuff, he's a remarkable player, and as we saw over Christmas and January when he was banging them in, it felt like he was scoring every week. That was what he was doing. He was just playing off the cuff, and I'm not knocking him at all. I just feel like it's not quite there for him at the moment, not through a want of trying, but he just needs to get back to that off the cuff. But I guess when you care so much and you're at the bottom of the table and you know it's probably going to be your last few games, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
To jump in there, Cyberdon Blue says Jack's been positively average since the restart, and I felt like tonight we saw maybe more of that where he cut in a little bit and took a couple of pot shots at the edge of the box. Obviously the shot towards El Ghazi was one of those, and I felt like over the last few weeks, I guess, since the restart, he's made a couple of errors in the choice of pass that he's made. But I agree with you, Dan, that the pressure seems to have got to him a little bit. I don't know whether that's whether because it's the move or just because he's playing in a team that's struggling. Richard, what's your thoughts on Grealish and the pressure that he's under and everything that's going on with him?
I'm going to say something, and I feel like your fans are going to like just come for me in the comments. But when Souness, and by the way, I love Jack, great, chances created, excellent. He's amazing player, probably the best I've ever seen in my like little lifetime in a Villa shirt. But there's just little bits of, and I think it is, he's just trying to carry us on his shoulders. But it's when Gareth Souness was kind of having a go at him and saying there's little immaturities in his game. And like that one point where I think he tried to dribble into like 5 Everton defenders, I think the press is just too much for him. And I think he kind of cares too much. If you can, he's trying to do it all on his own, and it's not helping anyone. But the pressure might be getting to him, and he might need an audience around him. He might really be missing that.
I think that's an interesting point. You know, we talked about players, Dan, before who, like Neelan, for example, players that might have benefited from not having crowds. Jack Grealish seems to be a guy that revels in this cauldron-like atmosphere. He wants the boos as well as the cheers, you know, and maybe he is missing that.
Yeah,
I think he feeds off it, doesn't he? That's like he says himself that he loves it when people boo him, and it gives him a buzz, and it probably helps his game. And obviously that's not there at the moment. But when I'm talking about the midfield picking up the ball and there's nothing in front of him, when Jack gets the ball, it's like unless he goes alone, who's he going to give it to? He'll be wanting a striker in front of him that's making confident runs and trying to get in behind defences, but he hasn't got that. Yeah. So when you're a creative player, essentially Jack's a number 10. When you're that kind of creative spark and you're that player that wants to play through balls and you haven't got anyone to play him to, like I say, I think he's just ending up doing too much through no fault of his own because he ain't got the stuff in front of him.
It's true. I think it's true. The buck stops with the whole team, but at the same time, when you don't have that focal point up front, that a guy that you trust to essentially put the ball in the back of the net, it becomes a very, very difficult job for these guys. All right, so Richard, one last question then, and I fear the answer already, but staying up or going down, your verdict?
I
think that says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we could do it. Hopefully we will. That's what I'm going to say. Hopefully we'll do it. And yeah.
Hopefully we will. All right, Richard, thank you so much for coming on. Massively appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.
Oh, I mean, we're running out of time for that answer to be anything different, aren't we, Dan, at this stage?
Yeah, I really again thought we were going to be coming on tonight and being positive. It was so nice to do the last two shows off the back of positivity, and I do genuinely think there was some positivity today. I don't think we looked at a team that was bereft of confidence or a team that didn't know what they were doing today. I thought we had a decent game plan and we executed it reasonably well. We've just ended up conceding a goal. I mean, neither keeper's been particularly busy through the game. Rayner had to make a couple of saves against Palace. I don't remember him having to make a save in the whole game, and it was probably the same for Pickford as well. Yeah. So for both teams, it was because Carragher was talking about it being a bit of a basketball match, wasn't he? So they were, both teams were going for it. A bit easier for Everton with absolutely zero pressure on them whatsoever, and that's annoyed me as well because they had nothing to play for yet. They still managed to come from behind and nick that point when really it means absolutely nothing to them. So that's annoying. But I'd be interested to see what the comments have been like. To be honest, has it been a load of negativity? Are people still believing? Like, what's it? I can't see it, obviously, so I don't know what it's like in there.
Yeah, it's more negative than positive. Kurt staying positive, and obviously Mike Pearson flying the flag for positivity as well. But there's a fair amount of doom and gloom, I think, and rightfully so. I think tonight's performance has really split people. Like you were saying, you thought we played pretty positively. I thought we were average, and I think the kind of there's a bit of a mix there. Everton weren't great. I felt like they were on the beach a little bit, and we just didn't take advantage of them. And I think there's a bit of that in there. But I think there's a sliver of hope, because we could come away with a win against Arsenal at the weekend.
We've got to.
We've got to, but then we're gonna have another positive Tuesday show and feel completely sick when it comes to Sunday, and that's all we've got left really. And I think the joy of being a football fan is in that hope, isn't it? Because there is joy in being a football fan. You've got to hang on to the positives, and I think it is what it is. If we lose on Sunday, then it's all over. When is it? On Tuesday, rather. Yeah. Then it really is all over, and there'll be nothing left to do but wallow.
Yeah, this is one of them ones now as well where the current world circumstances that we're in. If we were in this position going into a game on Tuesday, Villa Park under the lights, the crowd would be a massive thing for us. It would be absolutely huge. It would be one of those real special atmospheres where they really get behind the team and give them everything, and it G's the team on and potentially gets them over the line. But it's not going to be there. It's being played out in front of nobody, and it's sad as a football fan that like the team needs us, and I'm not going to be able to be there. And I would have been there if it wasn't for the world circumstances. I know it's the same for everyone, but when you've got Everton fans won't have really missed being there today because they've got nothing to play for. But if we'd have all got to be there on Tuesday night, I really feel that's a massive, massive thing, and it's not going to happen.
Pete Powell's picking up the positives. The positive is that we are the only team to win on every day of the week this season. That's the real quiz.
No one else can say that, can they?
No, they can't. Ben Reed, Julian with the lockdown tan. I think that might be my camera rather than anything else I've done. But yeah, PSK says has a different point of view to you. I actually think the fans will get on the players' back if we're not winning at half time. So, does that affect the fans negatively? Obviously, but that kind of leads to the opinion that maybe it's a positive that the fans aren't there. I can't get behind that. I don't think.
Not for this game. I think generally you'd have seen negativity in the fan base in the earlier games in lockdown, but I think when they're really needed, they come through. And this is would have been a real big one to have the crowd there.
Mm. Yeah. Well, it is what it is. I think. I'm really confused about what I've just watched. I feel like I wanted to come on here and I was all ready to be positive, and now I've had to change my. When teams concede a goal just at half time and the whole team talk has to change. I feel like that's what's happened here, and now I've had to kind of. My mood's been dampened for me, but my words weren't ready to be damp, as it were.
I mean, we've got the season wrong. Let's face it. Overall, as a club, we've messed this season up. There's some good people behind the scenes. There's some bad people behind the scenes, in my opinion. But tonight, I don't think you can knock the team too much, in my opinion. Yes, I'd have loved to have seen that kind of display all season, that kind of organisation, and in general being resolute. If, as I say, that had been there in earlier games, we'd have been okay. But they'll be as devastated as we are, a lot of the players tonight. That's for sure.
Mm. So how do we move on, and how does the team move on for Tuesday in terms of squad selection, team selection? What would you do, Dan? Would you keep it the same, or are there changes that need to be made?
It'll just be Davis for Samatta, I would think. Yeah, I mean, Samatta's gone a long time without a goal now. I mean, not as long as Davis. Let's face it. I think I was about 19 the last time Davis scored for us in the Championship. But when one of them has a couple of games and doesn't score, it tends to change, doesn't it? But I just think Davis, Arsenal's back line won't relish playing against him. Someone like David Luiz, he won't like the rough and tumble that I think Davis brings. So for me, Davis starts. Mm. That's the only change. There wasn't a lot wrong with the rest of the team today. In all honesty, was there? You look at it. There wasn't a lot wrong.
I'd say Trezeguet was ineffective, but I wouldn't necessarily drop him for El Ghazi based on tonight's.
El Ghazi's confidence is now going to be at absolute rock bottom after that miss, isn't it? He won't start now off the back of that. But the same people that will be absolutely hammering him in the comments would have been loving him off after the playoff final. I suppose it's just the nature of being a footballer.
Yeah, it is. Peter Graham says play Davis and Samatta. I can't see any chance of us changing the formation at this stage.
No, not for me. Two up top didn't work really when we played it. I don't think there was much wrong with that performance tonight. If we just had a bit more quality again, if Smith had just been able to get a couple of the players that he would have wanted in the summer, I think we'd have been okay in general, and I think we'd have won that game today. There just is that lack of quality on the flanks and up front, wingers and strikers. That's what's going to let us down.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I just don't know. We had a couple of comments coming in about bringing on Nakamba at the time. I think we've talked about Nakamba. We don't really know what he offers and how important he is. He doesn't seem to be that important at all.
I mean, he's a defensive midfielder that I wouldn't say particularly makes us any more solid or resolute. I think the three midfielders were all having good games. So I think it was right not to change that. Nakamba can come on and get the ball and look very, very sloppy and put the team under pressure. I completely understand why Smith didn't change that. And the other midfielder on the bench is Lansbury, who, let's face it, barely ever got a game for us in the Championship. So again, it just smacks if we haven't got the options to change it. Outside of 12, 13 players, the goalkeeping department's very well stocked, but outside of 12, 13 players, there's not much there.
Yeah, I'm going to try and bring on our next guest, who is a former Villa View regular. Oh, and she's brought in her camera just in time. Oh my gosh, I was sitting there watching her in the top of my screen. There's no camera, there's no audio. What's going on? Jazz, welcome back to the Villa View.
Thank you.
First time on the post-match Pint.
I know.
How are you, and what was that like?
Well, I mean, just saying, side note, it was more stressful to sign into this Skype chat than watching the game, which says a lot. But that, honestly, I've been nervous about it all day. And you know, when you just know in like your gut that something is coming, I feel like all day I've just known. Even when we scored, I was like, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Like I was buzzing, but I was like, and then that stat came up, didn't it, about how many times we've conceded in the last 15 minutes?
Oh, yeah. Well, they love putting that up when Villa are winning. Not this very often.
Right. And I was just like, I really didn't need that. I didn't need to see that. But yeah, that I was like, I'm not getting ahead of myself. And then what happened. But I think we played really well though, and this is the frustrating thing. We always do this, and I think literally from the start of the season, we played really well. Like we can take a lot from it, and then we don't get a result.
Simondo Films, who's an Everton fan, says Villa should have won it. Hope you guys stay up.
Yeah. Nice.
Very kind.
Yeah.
It's very kind, particularly the we should have won it. Jazz, how were you feeling, like kind of halftime 0-0? Were you feeling like Villa were in control, or were you feeling a little bit sick?
I was definitely feeling a bit sick. But I felt like we were in control, but it's that whole thing that always happens to us, that we don't make the most of the chances that we have. And it's that I think everyone's spoken about it, the lack of quality and we don't have a proven goal scorer. We had some Matt or whatever, but no one with any Premier League experience. You think of everyone who we were linked to and kind of what we've ended up with, and it's really disappointing, I think.
Yeah, Maupay. I mean, he's not exactly banged him in for Brighton, Maupay, but I think he sets the tone when he plays up front. He plays in a certain way. He's irritating for defenders, and just Dean Smith having someone like that to call upon, I think, would have made a big difference to us, because Maupay knows what Dean Smith wants. But
yeah,
that's the problem at half time, as you say. I think we haven't really made much happen. We've looked good on the ball.
We have.
And that final pass is never on.
I think our midfield today were very, very impressive, and I think that kind of saved us. But it's so frustrating, and I think this is just what everyone is feeling right now. I think everyone is just so frustrated. I still think we'll stay up though. I don't know what kind of juice. Yeah, I don't know what juice I've been drinking, but I really do. I think we can. I think if we play the way we all know we can play, I think we can beat Arsenal. And I think it depends on what happens in the West Ham game.
Do you want to hear something annoying?
Oh God!
Go on.
Neil Maupay's just scored.
Yeah. At one point, I was looking in the table, and at one point Brighton was still in the mix. If we'd have won, Brighton weren't out of it. Yeah. Which again would have been a big thing, to have another team down there in trouble, and perhaps the psychological side of suddenly their games don't become so easy because they're in a little bit of trouble. It's just so annoying. And I do think the last two games are winnable. I'm not saying we're going to win them, but I think they're winnable. Which we've had games since lockdown, where I've not felt like that at all. Whereas suddenly I'm feeling like the games are winnable. So I guess that's a positive.
The only thing is, I think Arsenal are full of confidence at the moment. They've just beat
their reserves won last night. They rested a lot of people.
They did.
But
go on.
They got mistakes in them.
They do.
Their defence is a car crash. It's a clown car. David Oye is a clown.
Yeah, I feel like they do have mistakes in them. Obviously, so do we. And I feel like their forward line is going to pose a much bigger threat than the last two teams that we faced. I just don't. I'm trying to have a reality check that we just played Palace, who were poor. We just played Everton, who I've said their forward line didn't particularly scare me. I think if Arsenal turn up, then we're in a bit of trouble. But the fact that maybe they don't have too much more to play for is maybe a positive.
But don't you think you get to this point of the season and you kind of reflect a little bit, and all the games where we should have nicked a point or we should have won a game, literally converting just one of those or two of those puts us completely out the mix.
Yeah, it's so annoying. I mean, Arsenal's one.
That's annoying. Arsenal's a prime example.
We've dropped 18 points from winning positions. 19 points from winning positions, rather.
You find all these lovely stats.
I stole that one off Sky Sports.
He's got someone in his ear feeding him information, I think, 'cause there's no way, stuff like that.
Up to Joe on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So, Jazz, I mean, you think we're going to stay up. So
I do.
Predict the next two games then. Arsenal at home and then West Ham away. Score lines for both.
I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal. And I actually think Jack will score. 2-1 to us against Arsenal. I think Jack... No. I think Jack will score. I think he is so desperate to score. You can see it. I think you can see it, and I think sometimes that doesn't play well in his favour, maybe. But I do think he'll score, but I just can't see us keeping a clean sheet. I think it's almost we're desperate now. We literally have nothing to lose. I mean, we do, but we don't.
All right,
I know what you mean.
2-1 Villa. Let's get back on track. The final game of the season against West Ham. What's the score?
This, I think, depends on where we are. I think we'll either come out and win like 3-0, or I think we'll scrape a 1-0. But I think it depends. I think so much of it is mindset and how we actually play against Arsenal.
It depends what situation West Ham are in as well, I guess. We don't know at the moment what they're going for, what they're not going for. They might already be safe. They might be banging trouble. It's difficult to call that. That's one at the moment.
That's what I mean. It depends. There's 2 games left of the season.
Don't blame the questions. That's all I'm saying. Sorry, that's an Office reference, Jazz, that you'll never get.
Yeah, that's why I just laughed. Yeah, I don't want to be negative. I think it's so easy to be negative, but I'm not. I'm going to stick with them. I think we came out to say fighting until, well, the inevitable happened. But I think we've got it in us. I do think we've got it in us. Oh, Talan just hello.
It's probably not the time right now.
All right.
I think we've got it in us.
Jazz, thank you so much for joining us. Well done for working out your microphone and your camera. You've done a wonderful job. And we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Cheers. Well, that's it.
I had a sad thought while we were talking to Jazz, not because of Jazz, but Jack. I'm talking about Jack. It's probably going to be his last game in the Villa shirt at Villa Park on Tuesday, isn't it? Probably. Let's face it. That's what it's going to be. It'd be really nice if he could go out with a few goals and assists. Really nice. Yeah,
it must be a weird feeling for him, a boyhood fan playing in an empty stadium in his last game as captain.
Yeah, it's sad, really.
It is a bit sad, and I mean, it would be great if he banged in a couple to make himself feel a little bit better. I'm sure the Villa fan base would also appreciate that. But yeah, it'll be a really weird time for him, and I hope he can channel that energy into a top class performance rather than kind of letting it overwhelm him, because I agree with you and what Jazz said about the kind of pressure that he's under and the fact that he needs to lift this team. And yeah, hopefully he can channel it into a great performance on Tuesday.
I mean, it pretty much sums up the sadness of being a Villa fan, really. For me, if you think about like Tammy Abraham, who I loved, by the way, I'm not knocking him at all. Obviously, scored the number of goals that he scored, absolute hero for us last season. But someone who we actually borrowed off Chelsea gets to end at Villa, sign off at Wembley in a victory, which is a great way to sign off. And someone that's been at the club his whole life is going to sign off from Villa Park in an empty stadium. It just feels very, very Villa-like, the sadness of being a Villa fan.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a lovely place to finish it, isn't it? So this has been the post-match pint in association with Purity Ale. If you want to support the podcast, support Purity, make sure you use our discount code #VillaView for 10% off at Purity Ale online. Get all the quality ale you can muster and take 10% off there as well. We will be back on Monday with the Luke Live Lounge in association with Luke Roper. So that moves from Tuesday to Monday, still at 7 p.m. UK time, and then we'll be back for the post-match pint late after the Arsenal game, bringing you all the reaction as it happens or as we feel it. I feel like my mood, Dan, has kind of changed during this from not knowing what to think to positive to now kind of on the way back down again. Yeah, weird one.
Yeah, my head's very muddled. Very muddled.
This feels like the weirdest post-match pint we've done in terms of what because I think the first 6 or 7 we were well beaten or kind of they were a bit mundane performances, and obviously the Crystal Palace left us on a high, and then this one's just been a bit of a crushing blow, to be honest. Yeah,
it's like I'm desperately trying to be positive, but deep down I know the dream of staying up is slowly dying.
Yeah. Okay.
I've gone more negative as this has gone on.
Yeah, that's where I feel about now. So good. Well, an uplifting watch for all. But the dream is not yet over. There's still 2 games left. We're still fighting. So join us again on Monday for the Luke Live Lounge. We look forward to chatting all with you guys then. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you to our guests. And as ever, up the